Hello and welcome everyone to another lesson video. As you all can see, the four elements of nature here. What are these? Earth, water, air and fire. So some of you are aware about these things, some of you aren't. Well, these are known as four basic natural elements, right? In some cases there are five elements as well, but here today we're going to discuss about fire. So what is fire and how can we control it? What are the advantages and disadvantages of fire? Okay, so before we read, fire is both useful and dangerous. Okay, a fire can be both useful and dangerous. How? Can you think of some answers? Secondly, what is fire? How did we discover it? Discover means when was the first time when we saw fire? How do we control it? How should we control fire? So these are some of the questions here. Now the lesson's name is fire, friend and foe. So foe means enemy, right? A friend benefits you and a foe harms you. So fire can be both. It can be helpful and it can also be harmful. So early man didn't know what fire was, but he must have seen the damage it could cause. He must have watched lightning and volcanoes long before he began to use fire himself. Fire was powerful and dangerous, and he was frightened. So early men here means men and women who used to live here on this earth, in this planet long time ago, and before they discover fire, right? The fire that we use now these days when we cook food, we use fire there, right? We turn on the stove button. So all these things are related to fire, but then they haven't discovered it. But the author says that they might have seen the damage it could cause. So fire, when it's uncontrolled, it will cause a huge damage. And then he's saying that he must have seen lightning. So lightning means electric charges, right? So when there is thunderstorm, when it's raining, usually you see lightning there, right? The light that comes out after or before normally the thunder that we hear. And volcanoes, so when they have seen volcanoes is all fire there. So fire is powerful and he was frightened. Frightened means scared, afraid. So he will be afraid because fire is powerful and destructive. Fire may have puzzle means confused, perplexed, early man, but we now know that fire is the result of a chemical reaction. So you are studying science, you can ask this question to your science madam, like what is a chemical reaction of fire? So chemical reaction means there are some certain chemicals when they react, fire is we see fire. For example, when the oxygen in the air combines with carbon and hydrogen in a fuel, a chemical reaction takes place. So there is oxygen in the air and the oxygen we breathe, therefore we are able to live. And then carbon is also there, hydrogen also there. So all these three are there, but how are they going to react, okay, in a certain place? That's the question. Now energy in the form of heat and light is released in this process. So when this reaction takes place, okay, what happens is we can see heat, we can feel heat, and we will see some light of this energy. So the energy comes out in the form of heat and light, and this is what we call fire. So fire is a simple result of a chemical reaction, and in this we have certain chemicals like oxygen, carbon and hydrogen in a fuel. So what is a fuel as well? Fuel is a thing that helps the fire to lit up. So we'll see what fuels are later. Three things are needed to make fire, right? There are three things which are needed to make a fire: fuel, oxygen and heat. So oxygen is available everywhere, fuel is also there, but heat should be there to generate fire. Now wood, coal, cooking gas and petrol are some examples of fuels. So fuels are those things which can easily catch fire. Oxygen comes from the air, so it is there. That is why when you blow on smoldering paper, it often bursts into flame. Smoldering paper means where you only see smoke and no flames. धुआं Chikbuch meshi mema tondu galerwa tilanga zu thua thendi gera shuwa till a smoldering paper lerwa. So when you blow chidwala it bursts into flames ra me barlingu do samsam. The third thing needed to make fire is heat. Fuel and oxygen do not make fire by themselves. So we have fuel, we have woods here, and oxygen is available everywhere on this planet, but they do not make fires by themselves, or else a newspaper or stick lying in the open would catch fire on its own, isn't it? You have your notebooks. Why is it not catching fire? Because to burn a piece of wood or a paper, what do we need? We need to heat them. So we heat it before it catches fire. We generally do it with a lighted match. So match lighted every fuel has a particular temperature at which it begins to burn. So fuel like wood, petrol, paper, so all of these have a specific temperature. When the heat reaches that temperature, it begins to burn. This temperature is called the flash point or kindling temperature of the fuel. So kindling means lightening, when you light up something, flash point. Okay. So you should understand what this phrase means. It is sometimes said that fire is a good servant but a bad master. It only means that fire is very useful as long as it is kept under control. Now there is another saying that money is a good servant but a bad master. Now everything, right, even the mobile phone that you are using, if you use it, right, if you keep it under your control, it will prove as a good servant. But if you let mobile phone control you, if you let money control you, if you let fire become uncontrolled, then what happens is they destroys you. They become a bad master then. So the proverb that you have seen previously is a really nice proverb, a bad master but a good servant. Okay. So for example, we use it to cook our food, warm our homes in winter, and to generate electricity. So the benefits of fire is food that we eat has to be cooked, and we use fire there. When during winter, when the home is freezing, we use fire to warm it, and fire also generates electricity that we use. But on the other hand, if fire gets out of control, it can be very dangerous. Each year, thousands of homes and shops are damaged by fire. Vast means huge, large areas of forest are also destroyed, and hundreds of people are killed or injured. So you can see that in the last 2 years, there has been many wildfires in Amazon forest and other regions, especially in the European countries, right? So just as 3 things are needed to start a fire, there are 3 main ways in which a fire can be put out. Put out means we can extinguish, we can stop the burn there. Okay, put out simply means to stop a fire. In each one of the 3 things needed for burning is taken away. So just like 3 things are needed to start a fire, 3 things are there to which can put out a fire, and we'll find them out. For example, we can take away the fuel. If the fire has no fuel to feed on, to eat, right, to live on, no burning can take place. We often let a fire die out simply by not adding more fuel to it. So suppose we are burning, we are having a normal winter time, and then we have collected many woods and we have burned them. So after you think that now it's the time that we should go sleep, what do? We do not add more woods there near the bonfire, because we want the fire to die out, we want to put out the fire. So when you take the fuel away, fire can die. The second way of putting out a fire is to stop oxygen from reaching it. So this is a bit difficult, but no supply of oxygen means no fire. So if there's no oxygen, there's no fire. Small fires can be put out or smothered with a damp blanket or a sack. So if there is a small fire, you can simply use a damp here means wet blanket or a sack you can use them and cover the fire with it. Then it will put out this stops oxygen reaching the burning material. Sometimes carbon dioxide is used to extinguish fire. It does not allow oxygen to reach the burning material. So we also use carbon dioxide to put out fire, because when we use carbon dioxide, oxygen cannot reach there. So these are some of the second way. Now the third way of putting out a fire is to remove the heat. If the temperature can be brought down below the flash point means the point where the fuel will start burning, right? The fuel stops burning. You blow on a burning matchstick or a candle to put it out. In doing so, you remove the hot air around the flame, bringing down its temperature below the flash point, and the candle goes out. Sometimes water is sprayed on a fire, so we splash water there, right? It absorbs heat. So water is cold, so definitely it will consume and take out heat from the burning fuel and lower the temperature. The blanket of water also cuts off the supply of oxygen, and the fire is then extinguished. Extinguished means stopped. So these are the three things, right? One is to take away the fuel, second one is to prevent the supply of oxygen, and the third one is to lower the heat or the temperature from the flash point. Now some fires cannot be put out with water. So there are large huge fires which cannot be extinguished with fire. If water is sprayed onto an oil fire, so if the fire has been caught by a petrol or certain oil, the oil will float to the top of the water and continue to burn. So it doesn't matter, even if you spray water, it will still burn. This can be very dangerous because water can flow quickly, carrying the burning oil with it and spreading the fire. Water should also not be used on fires caused by electrical appliances. Appliances means products. So we have mobile phones, chargers, television sets, washing machines. So all these electrical things, when certain things catch fire, we should not use water to extinguish it. The person spraying water might receive an electric shock and be killed, right? So if you try to spray water there, you may get electric shock and then you may die. A carbon dioxide extinguisher is the best thing to fight an electrical fire. So if there's an electrical fire, we should use carbon dioxide to put out the fire. So we normally have the gas that puts out fire, which are normally given out in schools and other societies to control the widespread of fire. Now we spend millions of rupees each year in fighting fires, and we spend more trying to find new ways of preventing fires from happening and getting out of control. On the whole, we have learned rather well to control fire and put it to good use in our everyday life. So we see that when fire gets out of our control, then it is very harmful and dangerous. Now, long ago, there were no firemen. When fire broke out, when fire started, everybody became a firefighter. People formed human chains. They still do if required, and passed buckets of water from a well or a pond to the blaze. The blaze means where the fire is burning. Now there are laws about building construction which ensure that space is left between buildings to reduce the fire risks. Every new building, especially a public place, must ensure observance of fire prevention norms. Bands of firefighting workers with special equipments known as fire brigades are there to put out fires. Firefighters are highly trained people. They possess means they have many skills. They cut off electricity supply, knock down dangerous walls, spray water and other materials to bring fire under control. They are also trained in first aid so that they can help people suffering from burns or from the effects of smoke. So in the last few paragraphs, what do we see here is we talked about firemen. So being a firefighter, right, long ago, during early man's period, there were no firefighters. So people used to form chains like this, and then they used to pass on buckets full of water so to put out the fire, right? And these firefighters, also known as fire brigades, they are very skilled and they are highly trained people. So even they know things about electricity, and they know how to do first aid things, right? So people who are suffering from burns because of the widespread fire, they will help them with first aid kits. So the discovery of fire and its uses helped early men to cope. To cope means to learn with nature better and gradually adopt a settled mode of life. Fire is still worshipped, prayed, worship means, in many parts of the world. Fire is indeed a friend, but as we know, it can be a dangerous enemy once it gets out of control. So you see that a man has to learn how to get along, how to build the relationship with nature better, so that you will settle your life in an easy manner. Otherwise, just like fire, there are other elements as well: water, air, and earth, right? And metals are also there. So out of these things, fire can become the most dangerous foe and enemy if it gets out of control. So with that, we are done with this reading. I hope everybody has understood the things there. You might have find new words. So today you'll do one thing. Okay, you will just answer these two. Okay, you don't have to write them down. Just mark the correct answer here. Early man was frightened of what? Frightened means scared. Scared of what? Okay, lightning and volcanoes, the damage caused by them, or fire. And then fire is energy. Is fire energy? Fire is heat and light, or fire is a result of a chemical reaction. So it's a result of chemical reaction. Now I want all of you to do this thing. You will read this by yourself, okay, from your textbook, and there will be many new words that you will find. So pick out those words, okay, and write them down under this title called Fire, Friend and Foe. So first of all, fire, friend and foe. um, Write this new title in your notebook, put today's date, and then start collecting new words and write down their meaning opposite to it. And then I'll tell you when to do this exercise. Okay, you don't have to do it today. Just read the story by yourself. The story is easy. It is all about fire and how to make fire your friend or to make it your enemy. It all depends on our attitude. So with that, we are done. Thank you all. In case there's any question, feel free to ask. Have a nice day.